How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today I would just like to briefly bring your attention to a very insightful post that was recently posted to the Don't Starve Together official forums by GlassArrow. It's called the Healing Guide /stats. For those who might not be aware of GlassArrow's kind of background in Don't Starve Together, they were part of the team that managed to port the Forge event over into a mod that could be locally hosted called Forged Forge. You may have played this event, but it did come out briefly before the actual second season for Don't Starve Together the Forge. I'm only going to be going over the sort of the conclusions that this post makes. I would, of course, encourage you to read it yourself, and the link to it will be in the description below this video if you would like to actually do a deep dive into the numbers behind all this stuff. But I'm just going to briefly, for the sake of time in this video, take a look at some of the conclusions that were made in terms of which is a better character when it comes to playing the healing role in Don't Starve Together the Forge, Winona or Wickerbottom. So what's the number one selection here? Well, it's Wickerbottom. She's amped, is wearing the garland on her head, the silken armor on the chest slot, and this results in dealing overall 5 health a second, according to how the calculations are broken down in these charts above. It basically divides the overall health dealt during one healing session by the overall time it takes for the healing session to complete, which includes not only the healing session itself, but while the staff is on cooldown and before you can begin another healing session. So for those who might not be quite as familiar with Wickerbottom, what does amped mean in regards to Wickerbottom being amped here? Well, after Wickerbottom does a certain amount of damage, it's roughly 20 hits with the healing staff, she will become charged, amped, if you will. This is indicated by glowing orbs surrounding her as a character in the game, as well as a signature tone. You've probably heard this tone while playing. So it's really important for Wickerbottom to be amped, because when Wickerbottom uses her ult while amped, it increases the effectiveness of that ult by 50%. So if you're using healing, it increases your overall health dealt during that healing session by 50%, and that's why you can see up here in some of these graphs, Wickerbottom absolutely skyrockets off versus the other characters, the other team members potentially, in terms of overall health per second dealt, and it's largely because of this amp. What is the garland? This is a headgear item that drops sometime during the Scorpion Wave or thereabouts. I forget exactly. It's a little bit random, and it increases the overall health dealt during a healing session, similar to the way amped does. And then, of course, the last one is the ubiquitous silken armor, which reduces cooldown by 10%. So that is, according to these numbers, the best possible healer. Where does Winona come in versus this? So in 4th place, Winona comes in with using silken armor and a perfect cycling of the tiara and garland. Those are one is the cooldown headgear, and then the other one is the healing headgear that I covered before, and comes in at 4.2 health a second versus 5 health a second. So it's pretty clear by these metrics that Wickerbottom is the superior healer in pretty much every situation, and it's borne out by these graphs here as well. So this first graph is for base healing. On the x-axis, we have time in terms of seconds, so this is considering 180 seconds overall. And as you can see, as long as Wickerbottom is amped, she just completely outstrips the competition. After 180 seconds, she has dealt a total of 675 health points to an individual member on the team, one target on the team, versus Winona's best at 500. And even if you scroll all the way down here to the best possible Winona gear versus an amplified Wickerbottom with no cooldown gear or the flower headband and no gear cycling, Wickerbottom is still beating out Winona with 810 health dealt versus 771, and you're obviously not going to be able to perfectly cycle the crowns as Winona. So once again, it's very difficult to say that Wickerbottom is not the best healer, and all the other characters don't even plot. Like, there is no benefit to using Wilson whatsoever. All other characters are indicated by the red line here on the graph because they don't have any innate character perks that would increase their ability to heal. So based off of these numbers and some of the things that I've been doing when playing Wickerbottom to heal for my team, instead of worrying so much about swapping between items, make sure that you focus on amping instead. Amping is what really makes the difference here. Having Wickerbottom charged before she puts down that heal is kind of what separates her from Winona. So that's why you should most certainly focus on amping Wickerbottom as much as possible when you're playing her as a healer. So if you have a choice between doing that and doing a little bit of extra damage, let's say with the golem, try to err on the side of doing additional healing. You are a healer after all. The other characters in the game are the ones that are supposed to be dealing the bulk of the damage. Don't worry about that as much yourself. But as Wickerbottom, you're going to be healing. You're going to be using the fire golem for especially bosses to deal additional damage. And then you're going to be using your Book of Petrification, of course, to help crowd control enemies. And of course, this is important during the earlier waves because your cooldown will not be as fast as Winona, which means that you have to use your book to keep large groups of enemies crowd controlled until you're ready to put down another heal. So I hope that this coverage here did GlassArrow's guide justice. There is so much information here. You could really go in depth, and the conversation have been quite lively below in terms of Master Wolf disputing or countering some of these claims, but all in all, it looks pretty concrete. You might find some special pleading cases for where Winona might be slightly better, but by and large, I think it's pretty much irrefutable that a competent team is going to be always using Wickerbottom to heal. That said, if you'd like to learn more or you suspect something might be wrong with these numbers here, once again, feel free to visit the link in the description below and read the full forum post for yourself. I'm hoping this video can help clear up some of the mystique surrounding the healer in the Forge event for Don't Starve Together. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.